the yielding warrior is one of the concepts in the meditative arts and martial arts. And real briefly, a little sidetrack. When we're talking about the meditative arts, I'm referring to anything from sitting meditation, standing meditation, walking meditation, Tai Chi, Qigong, yoga practices, anything that is coming from a meditative influence. Whereas the martial arts that we do here, the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, the Muay Thai, the Eskrima, these are all more what I consider external martial arts. And while they might have some meditative influence to them and can definitely be enhanced by a meditative practice, they are two different paths. And so my book, The Yielding Warrior, is taking the concept of yielding, which is used in martial arts and the meditative arts, and we break down yielding into three different directions.
Hello and welcome. Welcome to this episode of the Daily Soul Bytes show. I am your host, bolaabimbolaauthor. This is the show where we interview guest authors, coaches, and entrepreneurs in the fields of psychology, spirituality, and leadership to share their insights for the expansion of collective consciousness. And today I have a very special guest, Jeff Patterson, all the way from Portland, Oregon. Hello, Jeff. Welcome to the show.
Hello, how are you? It's an honor to be here.
Thank you for being here. Let me read your bio, Jeff. Jeff Patterson, after teaching 25,000 students in his martial arts academy and earning the equivalent of black belt in the martial arts of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Eskrima, Tai Chi, Qigong, Muay Thai, and Kenpō, Jeff now shares personal experiences, age-old wisdom, and the philosophies of meditative arts with his readers and students. With more than 30 years of hands-on experience, Jeff's crowning achievement is his recent literary endeavor, his book, The Yielding Warrior. This book stands as a testament to his unwavering dedication to the world of meditative arts. So, Jeff, I would love to know more about you and how you have come to this place where you are now driven by this passion of meditative arts, and also how you serve your clients now.
Yes, so I started the meditative arts at a fairly young age, and I used to be really into Western boxing. I used to go to this boxing gym that was just a few blocks down the street here from my academy. And in a boxing gym, it's a lot different than a class style structure if you've ever been in a class environment for a yoga class or a Tai Chi class or a regular martial art class, in that the boxing coaches usually have maybe 3 or 5 fighters that they're working with, and everybody kind of goes to their own coach and they focus on whatever they're doing. Well, when I first started going there was one coach there who was a very well-known coach and had actually created national and world champion level fighters. And I really wanted to get him to notice me and spend a little time with me because I wanted to train with him. Well, so I started showing up at the academy every time I knew he was going to be there, and showing him that I was disciplined and that I really wanted to spend time with him. And finally, he started giving me some insights and telling me a few things. And every time he gave me anything, I treated it like it was gold. I did it over and over again and really spent a lot of time and energy on it. And he started trying to help me out and spend a little more time with me. And after just about 2 or 3 weeks of us working together, he said something to me that changed my life forever. In that he said, if you really want to be good at boxing, you should start doing meditation and Tai Chi. And at the time, I was this 19-year-old kid thinking, how is, Tai Chi going to help me be a better fighter? The only thing I knew about Tai Chi was seeing older people in the park practice, and I was thinking, doesn't look very combative to me or like it's going to help me. And so I had a lot of respect for him, and so I started doing the practice. From that point on, it pretty much changed my whole trajectory of my life, and I've seen so many positive things and influences from the meditative arts that it's really been an amazing experience. And here at the academy, I've had, as you mentioned earlier, well over 20,000 students come through the academy. And through the years, it's always been fun training competitors that go out in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and compete, or a boxing match and compete. However, when somebody comes in here doing the meditative arts, they come in for different reasons. They're coming in because maybe they're dealing with stress or anxiety, or maybe they just want to be more mobile and healthy through their later years in life, or whatever it is. And when you can take somebody who's living with anxiety or living with depression and give them tools to understand how to deal with that and be happy and change their trajectory of the rest of their life, that's really powerful and rewarding. And so through the years, I've been teaching for over 30 years. And as I start to see all these stories and how this is influencing people, it's made me extremely passionate on wanting to get this message out, which is why I've written my last couple books and why I created the online program to help teach this practice to people outside of Portland.
I love that. I love the influence that your master, the teacher you had on you, and how you aligned to him. Because they always say that those we surround ourselves with, those we hang around with, birds of the same feather tend to flock. And I love the way he influenced you, how you turned things around, even though you doubted, but you were inspired by it. And I wanted to pick up on that. Sometimes we just need to follow that thread of inspiration, thread of excitement, no matter what our doubts may be. And that's really powerful. I would love to know more about your book, Yielding Warrior, and also the way you help your clients with anxiety. Because sometimes we think martial arts is only kind of a sports of some sort, or it's only a physical game. But mentioning that it is actually a very powerful spiritual and emotional tool, powerful permission slip that allows us to shift and transform from a lower frequency to a higher level of vibration. And the breathing techniques that you use. Packed a lot in there. Let me take it one by one. So let's start with your book, Yielding Warrior.
Yes, so the Yielding Warrior is one of the concepts in the meditative arts and martial arts. And real briefly, a little sidetrack, when we're talking about the meditative arts, I'm referring to anything from sitting meditation, standing meditation, walking meditation, Tai Chi, Qigong, yoga practices, anything that is coming from a meditative influence. Whereas the martial arts that we do here, the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, the Muay Thai, the Eskrima, these are all more what I consider external martial arts. And while they might have some meditative influence to them and can definitely be enhanced by a meditative practice, they are two different paths. And so my book, The Yielding Warrior, is taking the concept of yielding, which is used in martial arts and the meditative arts, and we break down yielding into three different directions. We have physical yielding, mental yielding, and emotional yielding. Physical yielding is the idea, say I push you and you push me, whoever's the bigger, stronger person with the most leverage is eventually going to push the other person over. But with yielding, instead of us trying to see who the bigger meathead is, when you push me, I get out of the way of that force, and so I can respond with less effort. Now, this is easy to understand how this is very helpful in a martial arts scenario, but it's also helpful in athletics. Many athletes at very high levels, basketball, football, baseball, any sport you can think of, even performers are using the meditative arts to help enhance these skills and learn how to use this and get to a higher level of training and whatever it is that they're doing. So this would be an idea of what we call physical yielding. Now, in order to be good at physical yielding, a lot of things have to come into play. You need to be well rooted. The lower part of your body needs to be strong and flexible so you can change your central equilibrium without getting tight. The body has to be relaxed, the breath has to be calm, and the mind has to be present. It takes years and years to get to a high level of this, but from day one, you start noticing things inside yourself by implementing these practices that most people never look at. And this is where it starts to get very interesting, because when you start to see these things more clearly inside yourself, you also start to see them more clearly in other people. And this is where we start to get into what I call mental yielding. Now, mental yielding is the same idea of physical yielding, but it's with interactions and other people. So say, for example, I say something that unsettles you and I pick up on it when it's very small. It's a lot easier to adjust the conversation and keep us going down a harmonious path than if I'm not paying attention to that. Pretty soon I'm so far off track, you want to knock me upside the head. And so learning how to use yielding in all of our interactions is very powerful. One, you're just being more considerate to those around you, but two, you're able to lead things in a positive direction, which is very powerful in negotiations, in business, in relationships, and in everything you're doing to try to find that path of least resistance. The next stage would be called emotional yielding, and emotional yielding is very much like mental yielding, but it's with our own interpersonal conflicts. So you think about, oftentimes something will happen to us and we'll respond and we'll go down this path, and we might get an hour, a day, a week down this road and realize maybe that wasn't the best choice. But with yielding, if we could have noticed by our increased awareness when it first happened, before it started gaining any momentum, and said, well, maybe this is a better approach, and weigh all of the options, a lot of times it can save us a lot of heartache on the other side by this increased awareness that comes with these meditative practices, helping us to break down these things. And basically, the book is teaching you about how to integrate these yielding practices into everything you do in life. And then it gives you a lot of physical breathwork practices, meditation practices that you can do to enhance that yielding awareness to apply this concept.
Mm. Oh, that is powerful. It's about self-awareness. The self-awareness that really allows us to pick up on the feelings and emotions and the thoughts within our own self. Because as you might know, that there was a research done by National Foundation for Science in the States, and they were talking about how we have 12,000 to 60,000 thoughts in our heads. It's about 90,000. This was 2005. About 90,000 thoughts a day going through our heads. And about 80% of those thoughts are negative, and 90% of those thoughts are repetitive. So we do tend to have all these thoughts going on through us. The mind is very busy. And being able to be self-aware of the thoughts that we have, the feelings that we have, because the thoughts become emotions. They drive our behavior. They drive our interactions. And that self-awareness for the emotional and the mental yielding is so powerful. So I love that. I think that's really powerful in the way you are integrating that. I'd love to hear a bit more about that in a bit. But I wanted to know how you work with your clients. Do you have a 6-week program or a 10-week program? How do you work with your clients, and how do you use the yielding program?
Yes, so there's a number of different ways that I work with clients through the online program, through our teacher training program, through the academy here. You know, one of going kind of back to what you were just talking about, which I think is a real important concept for the listeners to understand, is there always is these distractions and these thoughts. And like you said, a lot of them are negative. I've had so many people through the years come to me and say, I've tried meditation, but it just didn't work for me. And I've heard that hundreds of times, because there's a misunderstanding of what meditation is all about. Meditation isn't meant to be something where you go and sit and your mind is silent and you're at this place of nirvana. Meditation is about understanding how to deal with those distractions and negative thoughts. If you're sitting and doing a meditative practice or a standing meditation or whatever, there's going to be many times during that practice where your mind gets distracted and goes off on a thought or a negative path or whatever it is. And the idea with the meditative arts is learning how to recognize that distraction, bring yourself back to center into that focus. And every time you do that, it's a repetition and you're building the awareness and the strength to bring yourself back to center. It's kind of like lifting weights. If I go to the gym and I do one bench press and I think that I'm done working out, my chest is going to get stronger, I'm never going to get anywhere. It takes time to go over and build those repetitions to build that strength. And with the meditative practices, we learn through this repetition and this ongoing process of learning how to bring ourselves back to center and find that focus. Now, no matter what happens in our everyday lives, we're able to bring ourselves back into that distraction without going too far down those negative paths. And that's one of the ways that meditation is so powerful and can be so useful to anybody.
Yes, I do agree. And how do you help your clients? How do you work with them to get beyond this point of discomfort? Something new, something strange, something uncomfortable. How do you help them to get beyond and get to that place where because it does get easier. It does get easier. And the time comes when it's easier to stay in that neutral place in the day-to-day, regardless of the chaos. And we just come to a place where we're responding to whatever comes from that place of neutrality. How do you help your clients to come to that place, going beyond the discomfort?
So there's 3 different modes of practice. There's ritual practices, active practices, and philosophical practices. I teach clients to learn how to integrate all 3 of those into their life and understand that the most important part of a meditative practice is learning how to make it more of a way of life and less of a hobby that you do once in a while. Because it's very important to develop that daily ritual practice, even if it's only 20 minutes a day. That's going to give you the repetition and consistency to really help to get to deeper levels of practice. You know, the Dalai Lama said one time that, everybody should meditate for 20 minutes a day. Unless you're too busy, then you should meditate for an hour. And I love that saying, in that it truly is so important to at least have 20 minutes a day where you can look internally inside yourself and make that connection and try to get out of the distractions. All day, every day, we're so bombarded with these information coming from us left and right. And oftentimes we put masks on ourselves to try to not show people maybe how we're feeling or to try to hide something. And if we go through life and we're trying to shield ourselves to these things, and we never really look inside of how we're truly feeling, eventually, not only are we wearing that mask out in public, but now we start wearing that mask when we're looking at ourselves in the mirror. And so having this ritual practice to come back to and really resonate with who we are and how we feel inside and everything and how it connects, this is truly a huge benefit of the practice. Then once they have a good ritual practice set in play, we integrate active practices. Active practices I usually recommend that you try to do every 60 to 90 minutes throughout the day. And the great thing about these is you can do when you're walking down the street or standing in line at the grocery store. They can be as simple as just counting out 10 breaths, maybe doing some spinal rotations, maybe doing a movement practice for a couple minutes, just something to bring our awareness back into ourselves for real brief moments throughout the day. And now with consistency, we're doing our ritual practice every day. We're doing these active practices throughout the day. 1 week goes by, a month goes by, a year goes by. We start to get to deeper and deeper levels of awareness. And this is where you really start to see all the benefits of this practice.
And I think this is really important. If someone is saying, what's the benefit of all of this for me? I always point to the law of attraction. Because the frequency that we hold within us is really what we begin to amplify outside of us. And what we hold within is what we create on the outside. What these meditative practices help us to do is it does help us to raise our frequency and to begin to experience our more preferred reality, our more preferred life. We enjoy life even more. This is the key thing. It's work, and it takes compassion. And I love what you said about how this is not a one-time thing. It's not I'm just going to do 2 weeks of it. And no, it just gets, I think it's a lifetime thing, to be honest. I think where we are developing our own understanding of self, because we have different levels. You understand yourself to one level, and then you have to go deeper to understand yourself at another level. So this is why compassion is so key. Taking it easy on our own self and letting our own self to go the long haul. It's a distance run. It's not a 100-meter race. It's a long race. So I love your attitude and your program of, just take it step by step. It's not a 2-month or a 10-month thing. They're coming to you and they're growing in the understanding of self-awareness, understanding of self, understanding of integration, and really deepening that connection to higher self. That's what my book is about. I've got a book out, Daily Soul Bytes, and this is really talking about how we become much more familiar with the perspectives of the higher self. And by that, I mean with love, with compassion, with forgiveness, allowing ourselves to become even more familiar with unconditional love, with our higher self, through 31 nuggets that I share in the book. The book is now a bestseller. It's available anywhere books are sold online. And yes, but tell me more about your book. Where can it be found, and where can people find you, Jeff?
So the book's available on Amazon. I also have a special that I'm running right now where if you go to theyieldingwarrior.com/book, you can get a free copy of the book, just pay for shipping and handling. You can also get access to our online program and our teacher training program through there. Or if you're in Portland, Oregon, you're welcome to come in and check out the academy. And your website again is? theyieldingwarrior.com. Brilliant. And if you're looking for the book, it would be theyieldingwarrior.com/book. And I will share all your Instagram and TikTok and all your pages will go with this. Great. Is there any final word? Do you have any final words before we go today? One quick thing that we didn't touch on is if you're thinking about integrating a meditative practice into your life, realize that you can learn from an audio or you can learn from a video, but to really reach deeper levels of meditation, there should be no exterior things coming into you via video or audio. It's meant to be time where we can look internally in ourselves. And a meditative practice is also an evolving practice. It's something that changes month to month and year to year as you get deeper into the practice. So you're always learning. You know, I've been studying now for 36 years and I'm still just a student. I'm nowhere near the master. And that's one of the things that I've always loved about this practice is that it is so deep and there's so many different directions you can take it. If you approach it like that, you will be successful with the practice.
Thank you so much. Thank you for joining me today, Jeff.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank my audience as well for joining me today. I invite you to subscribe to the show, Daily Soul Fight Show. New episodes every Wednesday and daily shorts on our YouTube. And to also get the book, the Yielding Warrior book of Jeff Patterson, and my book, The Daily Soul Fight. And I look forward to seeing you next week, next episode, Daily Soul Fight Show. Bye.